Step 4, we're going to now complete Form 941 for the fourth quarter of the current year. And notice the authors are being nice to you here. It says the difference in the tax liability on line 7 has been entered for you. If an input field is not used in the table, leave the field empty. Do not enter 0. Round your calculations to the nearest cent as needed. All right, so Form 941. If you want to see the whole form, you can click down here, view the blank Form 941, and you can go ahead and print that out if you'd like to have a physical copy, if you prefer not to be scrolling up and down through here to view the form. So we can go ahead and close it out there. So number 1, the number of employees who received wages, tips, or other compensation for the pay period, including March 12th, which is quarter 1, June 12th, quarter 2, September 12th, quarter 3, December 12th, quarter 4. So in other words, how many employees did we have? And that's easy verifiable here. We can see 1, 2, 3. So we had 3 employees. So we can go ahead and simply enter 3 for line 1. So we can go ahead and check our answer. Fantastic. And we can go ahead and move on to line 2. So that's going to be wages, tips, and other compensation. So gross wages. So how do we find gross wages again? We go back up here and we're going to go ahead and add the monthly earnings for October, November, and December. So we'll go ahead and start by opening October here and check our gross monthly earnings there. That's 10,220. So we'll go ahead and make that the first portion of our calculation here. We're going to add these through for each month. So monthly earnings total 10,220. Go ahead and enter that into your calculator. Close out of October. Move on to November here. And this one, the monthly earnings gross here, 10,680 for the employees. So we'll go ahead and add that in. And then we're going to go on to December and get those gross monthly earnings, 12,400. So we'll go ahead and add 12,400 for a total of 33,300. So we can go ahead and close out of the table, and for box 2 here, go ahead and populate that in. So click into the cell and populate that through. We're going to check our answer. Great job. Good job, I should say. Then number 3, federal income tax withheld from wages, tips, and other compensation. So go ahead and clear out your calculator and we'll open up each of the months here and add the federal income tax for each, the total. So 1,495 is the total paid for October. And we're going to get that into our calculator here. We're going to add November. So we have 1,627 there. And then December's federal income tax. Right down here in the corner, federal income tax total was 2,044. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And that is a total of 5,166. So we can go ahead and enter that in here in line 3. Check our answer. Well done. And then line number 4, if no wages, tips, and other compensation are subject to Social Security or Medicare tax, check and go to line 6. But we don't have to worry about that because we do have wages that are subject to both Social Security and Medicare. So line 5A, taxable Social Security wages. So here in column 1, we're going to enter the gross wages that are subject to Social Security. So let's take these one month at a time. Where we go into October, we have $10,220 of gross wages. Are all of those wages taxable for Social Security? Well, we have to remember, what's the wage base limit for Social Security? If you forgot, that's the $142,800, and it's listed right here. So let's look at the year-to-date earnings, which means the earnings for Paula as of this period, including this pay period. So is she above the limit? No, it does not appear anybody's above the 142,800. So all of the 10,220 is subject to Social Security tax for October. So we can go ahead and open our calculator and throw that in. 10,220. And then we'll go into November. And again, the year-to-date earnings here, which include these monthly earnings, nobody is above the 142,800. Paula is close, so we'll have to pay close attention here to December in a second. So we can go ahead and add the 10,680 here because all of that is then subject to Social Security tax. And then let's close out of November and check in on December here. And it does appear here that Paula has gone over the 142,800. So how much of this paycheck here is taxable? Well, we actually already calculated that in the very first step, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this table here and scroll back up. And that was that 990 of Paula's paycheck that was so subject to Social Security. So we can go ahead and open up that December table again. And since Joe and Harley are under the limit here, we can add their paychecks in full first. And then 3,720 for Joe. And then 990 of Paula's paycheck is subject to Social Security tax that we calculated in step 1. So then that total here for line 5A, go ahead and close out of this table. Scroll all the way back, is going to be that 30,050. So we can go ahead and populate that in. And then it looks like we have a calculation here to make to get that Social Security tax. So we'll go ahead and multiply that by 0.124. So that'll be 12.4%, which is both for the employee and the employer. If you'll remember that 6.2% is for Social Security, but since we're paying both, which will be $3,726.20. We can go ahead and populate that in. And then we can go ahead and skip 5B because nobody got tips. And go ahead and verify that here. This is just monthly earnings, no tips in these tables. So also remember, according to these instructions up here, that if something is 0, we don't enter a 0, so we leave that line B blank. So taxable Medicare wages and tips. And remember, for Medicare, it's 1.45% on all earnings, and we are doing both the employee and employer portion. That's why this rate here is 0.029 because it's 1.45% twice. So we can go ahead and take this 33,300 right here, which is the total wages, tips, and other compensation since that Medicare doesn't have a wage-based limit. And we're going to go ahead and enter that on 5C here in column 1. And then we're going to go ahead and do the calculation for that tax. And multiply that by 0.029 or 2.9%. And that's $965.70. So we can go ahead and enter that through. Okay, so line 5D, taxable wages and tips subject to additional Medicare withholding. So if you're above the high limit of $200,000 just as a separate single taxpayer, there is an additional tax for Medicare, but none of the people here have this problem or have reached that limit. So we're going to go ahead and leave 5D blank. And we can go ahead and check our answer so far. Nice work. So 5E, we're going to add column 2 from lines 5A, B, C, and D. Go ahead and clear out our calculator here. So we're going to go ahead and add the $3,726.20 for the Social Security tax. $965.70 for that. Medicare wages and tips, tax, just Medicare tax, pardon me. And then that's going to be a total of $4,691.90. And we'll go ahead and put that on 5E. So then we have line 5F, and notice and demand tax due on unreported tips. And since we don't have tips, that line will be left blank. We can go ahead and move here. Check our answer. Fantastic. And then total taxes. So line 6 here, total taxes before adjustments. Add lines 3 and 5E. So we're going to go ahead and clear our calculator and move back up to line 3 here. That's that 5,166. And then we're going to add 5E, 4,691.90. And that's a total of $9,857.90. So we'll go ahead and plug that in here for line 6. And then we're going to go ahead and check our answer. Good job. All right, so line 7, current quarters adjustments for fractions of cents. That's been filled here for $0 here. So what's going on with line 7 is if we look at form 941, so here at the top of part 4, there's that link. We look at the blank 941. So here's our form 941. It's comparing your taxes calculated by this form, this amount here, $9,857.90, and it's going to compare that with what we actually paid, which is line 13. So we can't see that quite yet in the problem because we haven't gotten to that portion here, but this here, line 13, is the total deposits for this quarter, including overpayment applied from prior quarter, and overpayments applied from the form 941X, etc., in the current quarter. Now between this line 6 and this line 13, there may be a few cents difference from just rounding, because when we calculated our deposits for FICA FIT, we rounded 1 for each employee for each pay period. However, when we did it for this form, we only round once. So notice here for Social Security, we calculated it. Scroll back up here and rounded once. Then down here for Medicare, we also had it as one lump total and rounded once. So when you get to the payroll project where you're going to put here in line 7, current quarters adjustments for fractions of cents, is the difference between what you owe on line 6 and what you paid on line 13. So again, that's this number here to what we will have on line 13, which is coming down this way. All right, let's move on here then to line 8. So 8, current quarters adjustment for sick pay. And since there's nothing in this problem about sick pay, that's an advanced topic for our tax class, we're going to skip it. And then we have current quarters adjustment for tips for line 9 here, and group term life insurance, also advanced here and not part of this problem. So there's also no tips and no life term insurance in this problem, so we're going to leave that blank. So line 10 here says total taxes after adjustments, combine lines 6 through 9. So since we just have this number here for total taxes before adjustments and then nothing to add, we can go ahead and just copy that number over and check our answer. Excellent. So line 11, qualified small business payroll tax credit for increasing research activities. That is an advanced topic for the tax class, so we're going to leave that blank. They give us no information about that for this problem or in this problem. So line 12, we're going to move on here. And since that just says total taxes after adjustments and credits, subtract 11 from 10. So we're subtracting 0 from this total number here of 9,857.90. So easy math there. Okay, so line 13, total deposits for this quarter, including overpayment applied from a prior quarter and overpayments applied from Form 941X. So what are they talking about here? So this is the total deposits for the quarter for FICA Fit. And so since we've already had those as journal entries up here in part 3, we're going to need to add them up. So we'll take a look here at part 3. There it is. So this is the FICA Fit that was paid here as cash. So $3,058.66 for that first month there for October. Then November, we need to add that. And December finally. So let's go ahead and pop open our calculator to add those three together to get our total payments for the quarter. Okay, since my accounting labs calculator isn't working for me right now, I'm just pulling open the one here that I have on my computer. So we'll go ahead and add $3,058.66, this cash payment here for October's FICA Fit. And then we're going to go ahead and add November's. So that's $3,261.04. And then we're going to go ahead and add December's here. $3,538.20, and that's going to be a total of $9,857.90. And then also just be sure that you are not adding the FUTA and SUTA payment here at the very end. That's also cash because FUTA and SUTA are not part of the 941 taxes here. So let's go ahead and scroll back to line 13, and again get our number here, the $9,857.90, $9,857.90, and that is our total 941 deposits for the quarter. Okay, so then for line 14 is balance due. If line 12 is more than line 13, it is not, it's the same. So we'll go ahead and leave that blank. Again, this problem we don't put zeros. So then for 15 overpayment, and since the lines are the same, there is no overpayment, so we go ahead and leave that blank, and we can go ahead then and check our answer. Well done. And then we can go ahead and move on to part 2. So part 2, tell us about your deposit schedule and tax liability for this quarter. If you're unsure about whether you're a monthly scheduled depositor or semi-weekly scheduled depositor, see section 11 of publication 15. So for this one here, it's actually given to us at the beginning of the problem that Jones is classified as a monthly depositor. Then also the authors of the problem here are making it easy on us. They are checking here, you are a monthly scheduled depositor. For the entire quarter, enter your tax liability for each month and total the liability for the quarter. So tax liability for month 1, this is again in that part 3 of our problem here, the FICA Fit payments. So we can go ahead and scroll back up to that part 3 to that payment for October, and we can copy and paste just to make life easier. And then reduce the chances of error here, retyping everything. So go ahead and click into month 1. Then month 2, we're going to go ahead and grab November's FICA Fit payment here, the payment we made in cash of $3,261.04 for month 2. And then month 3 will be December's FICA Fit payment, and that is here the $3,538.20. And then also, again, make sure you don't grab FUTA and SUTA, which is right below, because that's not part of the 941 here. The total payments for the FICA Fit anyway. And then go ahead and total these up, and go ahead and do $3,058.66 plus $3,261.04, $538.20, and then that's that total again, the $9,857.90. And then we can go ahead and scroll through. Nothing else left here, so we can go ahead and check our answer. Good job.